They say moving on means letting go of the past, but sometimes the past finds new ways to circle back. 6 months after walking out of my sister's wedding, I'd received James Davidson's letter with a check for $10,147, every penny I'd spent, plus interest. I'd deposited it, started therapy, and begun rebuilding a life that felt like mine. And then I'd met David Chen at the coffee shop. That first evening at the photography exhibit had been easy, natural. We'd walked through galleries discussing composition and light, grabbed dinner at a small Thai place, and talked until they kicked us out at closing. By the time he'd walked me to my car, I'd felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope that maybe not everyone would hurt me. Now, 4 months into dating, I was learning what healthy love actually looked like. My apartment had transformed from a sparse, temporary space into something that felt like home. David had helped me hang shelves last weekend, and we'd argued good-naturedly about whether my book collection needed alphabetizing, his vote, or thematic organization, mine. I'd won, but only because I'd promised to make his favorite lasagna. "You're smiling at your phone again," Patricia said, appearing in my office doorway at Hope Harbor. "Let me guess. Teacher boyfriend?" I looked up from David's text about finding a new hiking trail for the weekend. "Is it that obvious?" "Honey, you've been glowing for months. It's nice to see." She settled into the chair across from my desk. "Speaking of nice things, we got a major donation yesterday. Anonymous. $10,000. My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. Anonymous? Completely. The only instruction was that it goes toward Client Emergency Housing Fund. No publicity, no recognition. Patricia studied me curiously. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" "No," I said honestly. That's amazing, though." After Patricia left, I sat with the information. $10,000. The exact amount I'd taken back from Sophia's wedding. It felt like the universe balancing itself somehow. My phone buzzed. David. "Dinner at my place tonight? Want to try that new pasta recipe?" Me. "Perfect. I'll bring wine." What I didn't know was that everything was about to unravel. I arrived at David's apartment that evening with a bottle of Chianti and my favorite hoodie. I'd been leaving things at his place gradually, the way you do when a relationship starts feeling permanent. He greeted me with a kiss and the smell of garlic and tomatoes already filling the kitchen. "I'm making that amatriciana you liked at Lombardi's," he said, stirring the pot. "Hopefully it lives up to the original." "I'm sure it will." I hung my jacket on the hook by the door, the one he'd designated as mine, last month. We fell into our comfortable rhythm, me chopping basil, him adjusting seasonings, both of us talking about our days. He'd had a breakthrough with one of his students, a kid who'd been struggling with history but had finally connected with a World War II project. I'd helped a client secure emergency housing after fleeing an abusive partner. "You're incredible, you know that?" David said, pulling me into a side hug while the pasta boiled. "The work you do, it matters so much." "So does yours. You're shaping young minds and all that." I grinned up at him. "True, but I'm not actively saving lives." "You're saving futures. That counts." After dinner, we settled on his couch with wine, some documentary about national parks playing in the background. David seemed distracted, kept glancing at his phone, then at me, then away. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just work stuff." But he was a terrible liar. I'd learned his tells over 4 months, the way he rubbed the back of his neck when stressed, how his left eye twitched slightly when he wasn't being fully honest. "David, what's going on?" He set down his wine glass. "I got a call today from James Davidson." The name hit me like cold water. I sat up straighter. "James? Why?" "The Davidson Foundation, the one his parents run for educational initiatives. They're having their annual gala next month. It's a big fundraiser. James called because..." He paused. "Because I'm on the board." I stared at him. "What?" "I've been on the board for 2 years. It's volunteer work, helping allocate scholarship funds. I didn't mention it because..." He stopped, seeing my expression. "Maya, let me explain. You're on the Davidson Foundation board." My voice sounded flat, distant. "The Davidsons. The family that..." "I know." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Maya, I joined that board before I ever heard about you. It was James's cousin Michael who recruited me. He's my best friend from college. That's how I know the family." "Michael Davidson!" The pieces were clicking together with sickening clarity. The Michael you mention sometimes, your college roommate Michael. Yes, I stood up, needing distance. So, when you met me at the coffee shop 6 months ago, you already knew who I was. You knew about the wedding. David's silence was answer enough. Oh my God. I pressed my hands to my face. The coffee shop. That wasn't random, was it? No. His voice was quiet. It wasn't random. The room tilted. I grabbed the back of the couch for support. You engineered meeting me. The coffee shop conversation, the book I was reading, asking about my work. All of it was planned. The first meeting, yes, but Maya, how long have you known about me? My voice was rising now. How long have you known about the wedding, about Sophia, about everything? David stood too, hands raised like he was approaching a spooked animal. 6 months. I heard about it at a family gathering about 6 months before I met you. James told the story, not to gossip, but because it had affected him deeply. He kept talking about this woman who'd had the courage to walk away from people who didn't value her. So you decided what? To track me down? To meet the freak show? No! His voice was sharp now. Maya, no. I heard that story and I thought you were the bravest person I'd never met. So I looked you up. I found your social media, saw your work at Hope Harbor. I saw someone who'd been hurt but was choosing to help others heal. And I wanted to meet you. But you lied. Tears were streaming down my face now. You manipulated the whole thing. The coffee shop, the chance meeting. I know. He looked wrecked. I know I did, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Why? I was sobbing now. Why not just be honest? Why not say, hi, I heard about you through James Davidson. I think you're amazing. Can we talk? Because I knew if I mentioned the Davidson name, you'd put up walls. You'd see me as part of that world, that pain. I wanted a chance to know you without that between us from the start. That wasn't your choice to make. I grabbed my jacket. You took away my choice. You manipulated me just like everyone else has. Maya, please. I need to leave. I was moving toward the door. I can't process this right now. Can we talk about this, please? I turned at the door. You know what the worst part is? I was starting to trust again, starting to believe that someone could actually care about me without an agenda. But you had an agenda from day one. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed bitterly. You want to talk about fair? You researched me. You engineered a meeting. You pretended it was all chance. And now you want me to believe that everything after that was real? It was real, he said desperately. Maya, I swear, every feeling, every moment, I don't know what's real anymore. I opened the door. Don't call me. Don't come to my apartment or my work. I need space. How much space? I don't know. Maybe forever. I left before he could respond, taking the stairs instead of waiting for the elevator. By the time I reached my car, I was shaking so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. The drive home was a blur of tears and streetlights. When I finally made it to my apartment, I collapsed on the couch and let myself completely break down. Everything I'd thought I knew about my relationship was built on a lie. David hadn't happened to be at that coffee shop. He'd planned it, researched me, decided I was worth pursuing based on a story he'd heard at a party. I felt like an idiot, like a mark, like someone who'd been so desperate for connection that I'd missed every red flag. My phone buzzed with texts from David. I'm so sorry. Please let me explain properly. I never meant to hurt you. Everything after that first meeting was real, I swear. I turned off my phone and curled into a ball on the couch, pulling a blanket over my head like it could somehow protect me from the pain of being betrayed again. The next 3 days were dark. I called in sick to work, which I never did. Patricia texted, "Take the time you need. No questions." She was good at reading between the lines. I existed in a fog of grief and anger. Grief for the relationship I thought I'd had. Anger at being manipulated. Again. By someone I'd trusted. Again. The knock on my door on the 3rd day was unexpected. I almost didn't answer, but something made me check the peephole. Aunt Sarah stood in the hallway, holding a bag that I recognized as being from my favorite soup place. I opened the door. "Heard you've been hiding," she said, pushing past me without waiting for an invitation. "We're talking. I really don't want to." "Too bad. Kitchen now." I followed her like a scolded child. She started unpacking containers. Tom yum soup, spring rolls, pad thai. Enough food for 3 people. Eat, she commanded, pushing a bowl toward me. Then talk. So I ate. And then I talked. The whole story came pouring out. The coffee shop meeting I'd thought was chance, the board position, the Davidson connection, the engineered first encounter. When I finished, Aunt Sarah was quiet for a long moment, methodically eating her soup. "That's definitely messed up," she finally said. "The lying about how you met, that's not okay." "Thank you," I felt validated. "He manipulated everything." "But," Aunt Sarah interrupted, holding up a hand, "I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about it before answering." I waited. "How did David treat you these past 4 months? Not how you met. How did he actually treat you in the relationship?" I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it, because the truth was complicated. He treated me well," I admitted slowly. "He never asked me for money. He always split bills 50-50. He supported my boundaries with my family. When Sophia showed up at my work and I had to call security, he didn't tell me I was being too harsh. He just held me while I cried." "Did he ever pressure you to reconcile with your family?" "No, never." "Did he try to control you? Isolate you from friends? Any red flags once you were actually together?" "No." I felt tears starting again. That's what makes this so confusing. The way he approached me was manipulative, but once we were together, he was perfect, supportive, kind, respectful. Aunt Sarah nodded slowly. "So here's my question, honey. Does someone's method of meeting you negate 4 months of genuine behavior?" "I don't know." I wrapped my arms around myself. "How do I know what was genuine and what was part of some plan?" "Did he know you'd be having a breakdown about Sophia on that Tuesday in September?" "No." "Did he know your favorite coworker would quit and you'd be stressed about covering her caseload?" "No." "Did he plan for your car to break down so he could help you deal with the mechanic?" "No." I saw where she was going. But the foundation was a lie. The coffee shop was a lie. "The initial meeting was a lie," Aunt Sarah corrected. "But Maya, everything that happened after? Did that feel like lying?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. David's reaction when I told him about my childhood, his genuine anger on my behalf about the wedding, the way he celebrated my wins at work, how he'd supported my decision to maintain boundaries with my family. It felt real, I whispered. Then maybe it was. Aunt Sarah reached across to squeeze my hand. "Look, what he did was wrong. Taking away your choice about how to start the relationship, that's a violation of trust. But honey, he could have kept lying. He could have never told you about the board position, never mentioned knowing the Davidsons. But he did tell you. Doesn't that count for something?" "I don't know what counts for what anymore." "That's fair, but I want you to think about something. Your whole life, people have taken from you. Your family took your money, your time, your emotional energy. They saw you as a resource." She looked at me seriously. "Did David take from you, or did he give?" I didn't answer, but I didn't need to. We both knew the truth. After Aunt Sarah left, I sat alone with her words echoing in my mind. My phone was still off, a pile of unread notifications waiting. I turned it back on. 17 texts from David spread across 3 days. I read them chronologically. "I'm so sorry. I know that's not enough, but it's true. I should have told you from the beginning. That was wrong. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to know. Every moment after that first meeting was real. I understand if you never want to see me again. But if you do want to talk, I'm here, whenever you're ready." And then, sent 2 hours ago, "I made a donation to Hope Harbor in your name. $10,000. No strings attached. You don't have to talk to me or thank me. I just wanted to support the work you're doing. Because that matters, regardless of what happens with us." I stared at that last message for a long time. He could have used the donation as leverage. Could have said, "I gave money to your organization, so you owe me a conversation." But he hadn't. He'd supported my work and explicitly said no strings attached. That wasn't manipulation. That was respect. I called Patricia. "Maya, how are you feeling?" "Better. Listen, that anonymous donation? The 10,000? What about it?" "I know who it was from. David. My boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend? I don't know what he is right now. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Does he want publicity for it? No, he specifically said no strings attached. I just thought you should know the source. Well, Patricia's voice was thoughtful. That's interesting. Most people who donate that much want their name on something. The fact that he doesn't, that says something about character. After we hung up, I pulled up David's contact. My finger hovered over the call button for a full minute before I finally pressed it. He answered on the first ring. Maya, I got your texts. I meant every word. I know. I took a breath. Can we meet? I need to understand something. Anything, anywhere you want. The park, the one where we had our second date. Tomorrow at 2? I'll be there. The park was neutral ground, public but not crowded on a Wednesday afternoon. I arrived early, needing time to settle my nerves. When David appeared, he looked like he hadn't slept much. Dark circles under his eyes, his usually neat hair slightly messy. He sat on the opposite end of the bench, maintaining distance. Thank you for agreeing to meet, he said quietly. I need to understand why you lied to me. He nodded, like he'd been expecting this. Because I knew if I told you I'd heard about you through James Davidson, you'd see me as connected to that pain, to that family, to everything that hurt you, and I wanted— His voice cracked. I wanted a fair shot at knowing you without your trauma coloring how you saw me from the start. That wasn't your choice to make. You're right. It wasn't. And I'm sorry. He finally looked at me directly. Maya, I can't undo it. I can't go back and meet you honestly. But I can tell you that everything after that first meeting was real. I fell in love with you. The real you. Not some story I'd heard, not some project to fix. You. The donation, I said. You could have used that as leverage. I would never. He looked almost offended. Maya, I'm not trying to manipulate you back. I'm trying to respect you, even if that means respecting your decision to never speak to me again. A mother pushed her child on the swings nearby, their laughter carrying across the park. Normal life, continuing while mine felt suspended. I've spent 4 months thinking about trust, I said slowly, about whether someone who hurt me once could be trusted again. And I realized something. David waited. My whole life, people have taken from me. My family saw me as a resource. Money, time, emotional labor. They took and never gave back. I turned to look at him. But you didn't take from me, David. Even with the lie at the beginning, you didn't take. You gave. You supported. You respected my boundaries even when it cost you. I still lied. You did. And that hurt. But I swallowed hard. But I'm starting to understand that maybe people can start wrong and choose right. That maybe the beginning doesn't have to define everything that comes after. Hope flickered across his face. Does that mean— I'm scared, I interrupted. I'm scared to trust you again. I'm scared you'll hurt me worse next time. I understand that. He moved slightly closer, still maintaining some distance. And Maya, I can't promise I'll never hurt you. People in relationships hurt each other sometimes. But I can promise I'll never lie to you again. And I'll never, ever take you for granted. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd approached me wrong but treated me right. Who'd supported my healing without trying to fix me. Who'd learned, along with me, what healthy love actually looked like. I think, I said slowly, I think maybe we deserve a second chance. A real one this time, starting with complete honesty. Honestly? His voice was thick with emotion. I miss you. Every single day. I miss our terrible movie debates and your insistence on thematic book organization and the way you hum when you're cooking. I felt tears start. I miss you too. So where do we go from here? We start over, I said. Really over. No more secrets. You tell me everything about the Davidson connection, about the board position, about how you found me, and then we rebuild, slowly, with honesty this time. He nodded. I can do that. We talked for 3 hours in that park. He told me everything, how he'd heard the story at a family gathering 8 months after Sophia's canceled wedding, how James had talked about me with genuine awe, how he'd looked me up on LinkedIn and found my work at Hope Harbor. how he'd checked my social media and seen pictures of books and sunsets and volunteer work, and thought I looked like someone who'd survived something terrible and chosen growth instead of bitterness. I know it sounds like stalking, he admitted. It kind of is stalking, I said, but without malice. I know, and I'm sorry, but Maya, I wasn't looking for someone to fix or save. I was looking for someone who'd figured out how to save herself, and that's what I saw in you. And the coffee shop? I saw on your Instagram that you posted a picture from Riverside Coffee with the caption, "My Tuesday morning ritual." So I started going there on Tuesdays. It took 3 weeks before you happened to sit near me. And even then, I almost didn't say anything because I thought, what if I'm wrong? What if meeting under false pretenses ruins any chance we could have had? It almost did, I said quietly. I know. He looked at me seriously. If I could go back, I'd do it differently. I'd walk up to you honestly and say, "Hi, my name is David Chen. I'm friends with James Davidson's family. I heard about what you went through, and I think you're incredible. Can I buy you coffee?" What do you think I would have said? He smiled sadly. Probably no. Probably that you never wanted to hear the Davidson name again. You're probably right. I thought about it. But David, taking away my choice, even to say no, that was wrong. It was, and I own that. He met my eyes. I can't undo it, but I can spend every day after choosing honest, choosing you, choosing us. As the sun started to set over the park, painting everything in golden light, I made my decision. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay, let's try again. But David, one more lie, one more secret, and we're done. I mean it. No more lies, he promised. No more secrets. We didn't hug or kiss or have some dramatic romantic reunion. We just sat on that park bench, a careful distance between us, and talked about how to rebuild trust. About therapy, both individual and couples. About taking things slow. About earning back what had been broken. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was honest, and that mattered more. Over the next weeks, we started again. Real first dates, where David picked me up at my door and we went to restaurants where we learned new things about each other. He told me about his work on the Davidson Foundation board, how he allocated scholarship funds, helped review applications, attended quarterly meetings with James and other board members. I need to tell you something else, he said over dinner one night, about a month into our rebuild. James wants to know if we'd attend the foundation gala next month. I set down my fork. The Davidsons' gala? Yes, it's their big annual fundraiser. James said. He pulled out his phone and read from a text. I'd like Maya to see that not everyone in my family is like my mother, and I'd like to publicly acknowledge what she went through. My stomach churned. I don't know if I can face them. You don't have to decide now. But Maya, you've spent months avoiding them. Maybe it's time to show them who you've become. I thought about it for days. The old Maya would have said no immediately, would have hidden, would have protected herself by staying small and invisible. But I'd learned something since that wedding. Sometimes showing up is the greatest act of defiance. Okay, I told David 1 week later. Let's go. Are you sure? No, but I'm going anyway. The night of the gala, I stood in front of my mirror wearing a deep blue dress that made me feel powerful rather than pretty. David appeared behind me, handsome in his suit. You look beautiful, he said. I look terrified. That too, but also beautiful. He squeezed my shoulder. We can leave any time you want. Just say the word. The Grand Riverside Country Club looked different at night. Elegant, sophisticated, nothing like the chaos of Sophia's canceled wedding. String lights twinkled across the outdoor terrace, and classical music drifted from the ballroom. James spotted us immediately and came over. He'd changed since I'd last seen him. Less of the carefree, wealthy kid, more substance. He shook David's hand first, then turned to me. Maya, thank you for coming. I know this can't be easy. It's not, I said honestly. I owe you an apology. I should have seen how my family treated you before the wedding. I should have questioned things. I didn't, and that failure is on me. You figured it out when it mattered, I said, surprising myself with the forgiveness in my voice. That's more than some people do. James glanced toward the podium at the front of the ballroom. I'm giving a speech tonight about the Foundation's work. I'd like to publicly acknowledge what happened and make something right. Is that okay with you? Part of me wanted to stay invisible to avoid attention, but another part, the part that had learned to take up space, said yes. Okay. The gala proceeded with typical charity event rhythm: cocktails, networking, silent auction bidding. Several people recognized David from the board and came over to chat. When they asked who I was, he introduced me simply as Maya Chen, Director of Programming at Hope Harbor. No mention of Sophia, no mention of the wedding, just my work, my accomplishments, my value. Then James took the microphone. He talked about educational equity, about giving opportunities to students who'd been overlooked, about second chances and the power of choosing differently. Then he said, "I want to share something personal tonight. A little over a year ago, I was supposed to get married. The wedding didn't happen, and at the time, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to me. Now I know it was one of the best." The crowd went silent, sensing a story. "My ex-fiancé's sister attended our wedding preparations. She'd contributed financially, over $10,000 of her own money. She'd supported emotionally. She'd done everything a loving sister does. And when she arrived at the venue, she discovered she'd been seated in a hallway. Told she didn't count as close family." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people here remembered that day. That woman did something I still admire. She chose herself. She walked away from people who didn't value her, including me and my family. And in doing so, she showed me what integrity actually looks like. He gestured toward me. "Maya Chen is here tonight. She's the Director of Programming at Hope Harbor, a nonprofit helping abuse survivors rebuild their lives. She turned her own experience with family trauma into a mission to help others. And I wanted to publicly say, I'm sorry for my part in how you were treated, and I'm in awe of who you've become." The crowd applauded. Some people stood. David squeezed my hand as I felt tears prick my eyes, not from sadness this time, but from validation. After the speech, several people approached me. Some offered apologies. They'd been at the wedding and felt uncomfortable but didn't speak up. Others asked about Hope Harbor's work, genuinely interested. But the conversation that mattered most came from someone I hadn't expected. "Maya." I turned to find Mr. Davidson, James's father, standing behind me. He looked uncomfortable, his usual patrician confidence replaced with something that might have been shame. "I wanted to apologize," he said quietly. "My wife's behavior toward you was inexcusable. I should have stopped it. I didn't, and I'm deeply sorry." "Where is Mrs. Davidson?" I asked. "Not here. We're separated. Turns out her treatment of you wasn't an isolated incident, just the most public one." He cleared his throat. "James has made it clear that if I want a relationship with him going forward, I need to examine my own complicity in creating a family culture where cruelty was tolerated." "That must be difficult," I said, and I meant it. "Not as difficult as what you endured." He handed me a business card. "The foundation is always looking for partners. If Hope Harbor ever needs funding, please reach out. Consider it a small piece of restitution." After he walked away, David pulled me close. "How are you feeling?" "Like maybe showing up was the right choice," I admitted. As the night wound down, James found us again. "Maya, I need to tell you something. Sophia reached out to me last month." My whole body tensed. "Oh?" She wanted to reconnect, asked if I'd be willing to help her get back on her feet financially. Her words. He met my eyes. I told her no, and I wanted you to know that. I see clearly now who she is, what she's capable of. You deserved better from her, from all of us." "Thank you," I said quietly. Walking out of the Grand Riverside that night, through the same grand entrance where I'd stormed out a year ago, I felt something shift. Not closure exactly, because trauma doesn't work that way, but completion. I'd returned to the scene of my breaking point, but this time as someone whole, someone valued, someone who'd learned that walking away wasn't giving up, it was growing up. "I'm proud of you," David said as we drove home. "I'm proud of me too," I replied. And for one of the first times in my life, I genuinely meant it. 3 months later, life had settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable. David and I were solid. Therapy was helping us navigate the trust issues, and we'd learned to communicate honestly even when it was hard. I'd been promoted at Hope Harbor to Director of Client Services. My relationship with my parents was cautiously improving, They'd started respecting my boundaries, slowly learning that love didn't have to mean constant sacrifice. And then my phone buzzed during my lunch break with a notification that made my heart stop. Sophia had posted an Instagram live. Against my better judgment, I clicked. My sister's face filled the screen, red and blotchy from crying, mascara running in dark rivers. She was in what looked like my parents' living room. I recognized the wallpaper. And she just abandoned me. Sophia was sobbing to her 15,000 followers. My own sister. When I needed her most, she turned her back on family. The camera shook as she adjusted it, showing old family photos in the background. Pictures of us as kids, arms around each other, grinning. "Look at these," she continued, her voice breaking dramatically. "We used to be so close. She was my big sister. She protected me from everything. And now," sob, "now she won't even talk to me." The comments were rolling in fast. "Family should stick together. So sad, praying for you." But others, "Didn't you treat her badly? What about the wedding? She helped pay." Sophia either ignored those or didn't see them. "I made mistakes," she said, looking directly at the camera with wet eyes. "I know I did. I was young, stressed. I let my in-laws influence me too much. But I've been trying to apologize and Maya won't even give me a chance." She pulled up screenshots, texts from me, recent ones. "Look at this. That's not my responsibility." That's what she said when I told her I lost everything. More crying. "Is this what family does? Abandons each other?" My phone rang immediately. "Mom." "Did you see?" Her voice was tight with panic and accusation. "Did you see what you've done? She's getting horrible messages, Maya. Death threats. You need to fix this right now." "Fix this?" I repeated slowly, anger starting to simmer. "Mom, she's the one who put herself on social media. She's the one playing victim." "You're the one who abandoned her, your own sister. How can you be so cruel?" And something inside me, something that had been bending and stretching and trying to accommodate for too long, finally snapped. Not explosively like at the wedding. This was colder, clearer. "I'm going to say something, and I need you to really hear it." My voice was calm, almost eerily so. What happened to Sophia is not my fault. Her losing James, her apartment, her life. Those are consequences of her own actions. I am not responsible for fixing problems she created. "But she's your sister." "And I'm my own person. I love you, Mom. But I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to be guilted into setting myself on fire to keep Sophia warm. I'm hanging up now." I ended the call before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but my mind was crystal clear. For months, I'd been reactive, responding to their demands, their guilt, their manipulations, always on the defensive. It was time to go on offense. I texted David, "Did you see Sophia's Instagram?" His response came immediately. "Yes, are you okay? Come over tonight. I'm going to record a response." That evening, David sat next to me on my couch as I set up my phone to record. I'd thought carefully about what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Completely." I hit record. "Hi, everyone," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Some of you may have seen my sister's video earlier today. I want to address it directly." I kept my face calm, neutral, no dramatics, just facts. My sister is hurting. I'm genuinely sorry about that. But I want to be very clear. I am not responsible for the consequences of her actions. Pause for emphasis. A little over a year ago, I attended my sister's wedding. I'd contributed over $10,000 to help pay for it, money I'd saved for months. When I arrived, I discovered there was no seat for me at any family table. Instead, I was given a folding chair in a hallway near the restrooms. I maintained eye contact with the camera. When I questioned this, I was told that only close family gets tables. My sister laughed and said, "Guess you don't count." In front of guests. At the wedding I'd helped fund. Deep breath. I left that wedding. I took back my gift, and I set a boundary. I would no longer accept being treated as less than by people who claimed to love me. Since then, my sister has tried multiple times to reconnect, but every single attempt has been about what she needs from me, never about acknowledging how she treated me or taking accountability for her actions. I leaned slightly toward the camera. I've been called cruel, heartless, a bad sister. But what I actually am is someone who's learning to value herself. My sister says I abandoned her, but you can't abandon someone who never valued you in the first place. One more pause. I hope she heals. I hope she finds peace. But I won't set myself on fire to keep her warm. And that's not cruelty, that's self-preservation. I ended the recording and immediately posted it before I could second-guess myself. The response was instantaneous and overwhelming. Within an hour, 50,000 views. By evening, 500,000. By the next morning, over 2 million views, 300,000 likes, 45,000 shares. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. This is what healthy boundaries look like. I walked away from toxic family too. Hardest and best thing I ever did. $10,000 in a hallway seat? And she's the bad guy? The audacity of crying on IG after telling someone they don't count is wild. News outlets picked it up. BuzzFeed. Woman's viral response to sister's family abandonment claims sparks conversation about toxic family dynamics. HuffPost. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. One woman's stand against manipulation. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Media requests, interview offers, thousands of messages from strangers sharing their own stories of family estrangement. But through all the noise, one notification was conspicuously absent. David's name wasn't in my mentions. And somehow, that absence spoke louder than any viral attention. On the third day of my viral moment, when my video had hit 5 million views and I was drowning in requests, something strange happened at Hope Harbor. Patricia called me into her office. Maya, we received another donation, $10,000, anonymous again. My heart stopped. Anonymous? Same as before. No publicity requested. The only note was, for Maya Chen's work, no strings. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and texted David. Was that you? 3 dots appeared immediately. Yes. Why? Longer pause this time. Because you were right. I manipulated you by engineering our meeting, but everything you built at Hope Harbor, everything you're doing, that's real. That matters. I wanted to support it without making you feel obligated to talk to me. You don't owe me anything, Maya. You never did. I stared at the message for a long time. David could have used this viral moment to insert himself back into my life, could have reached out publicly, positioned himself as the supportive boyfriend, gotten attention. Instead, he'd supported my work and given me complete space. That wasn't manipulation, that was respect. I looked at Patricia. I need to make a call. I walked to the park where David and I had our second date, the one where we'd rebuilt trust the first time. I called him from the bench where we'd sat. Maya. His voice was careful. I got your donation. I meant what I said, no strings. I know. I watched a mother push her child on the swings nearby. And that's why I'm calling. David, you could have used this moment, used the donation, used my viral video to manipulate me or get attention. You didn't. Of course I didn't. That means something. I took a breath. These past few days, dealing with Sophia's manipulation and Mom's guilt trips, I've been thinking a lot about the difference between someone who manipulates and someone who made a mistake. Maya, let me finish. You approached me wrong. You engineered our meeting. That was a violation of my choice, and it hurt. I paused. But every single day after that, you chose honesty. You chose respect. You supported my boundaries even when it cost you. And when I needed space this week, you gave it to me without strings attached. Silence on the other end. I think, I said slowly, I'm ready to really move forward, not just rebuilding, actually building something new together, with complete honesty and trust. Are you sure? His voice was thick with emotion. I'm sure. Can you come to the park? I'm already walking out my door. He arrived 15 minutes later, slightly out of breath from rushing. We sat on our bench, and this time the distance between us felt deliberate rather than painful. I've learned something, I said, about forgiveness and trust. My whole life I thought forgiveness meant accepting poor treatment and moving on like nothing happened. But that's not forgiveness. That's enabling. What is it then? Forgiveness is acknowledging someone hurt you, seeing genuine change in their actions, and choosing to move forward without holding the past as a weapon. I looked at him. You hurt me, David. But you've shown genuine change. You've respected my boundaries, supported my healing, and never once tried to manipulate me back. That matters. I'm still sorry. I know, and I accept your apology fully. Not because I'm letting you off the hook, but because I believe you when you say you've learned from it. David's eyes were wet. I don't deserve you. Maybe not, but you're choosing to be worthy of me every day. That's what matters. I smiled slightly. Plus, you make really good lasagna. He laughed through tears. So where do we go from here? Forward. Together. Honestly. We didn't kiss or have some dramatic reunion. We just sat on that bench, talking about the future we wanted to build, about supporting each other's growth, about creating the kind of relationship that added to our lives rather than draining them. As the sun set over the park, painting everything in golden light, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, genuine peace. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of someone who chose to face them with me. Thank you, David said quietly. For what? For giving me a second chance, for teaching me what real love looks like, for being brave enough to demand better. Thank you for being brave enough to rise to that standard, I replied. 6 months later, David and I were at Riverside Coffee, the real beginning of our story now, no longer tainted by deception. We'd come full circle, same coffee shop, same table, but entirely different people. He seemed nervous, fidgeting with his cup in a way that had become endearing rather than concerning. You okay? I asked. Maya, I need to tell you something. My heart jumped, old fears, old instincts. What? He pulled out a small box and my breath caught. I know how we started was wrong, he said, opening the box to reveal a simple gold band with a small diamond. I know I approached you under false pretenses and hurt you in ways I'm still trying to make up for. But Maya, every single day since then has been the rightest thing in my life. Tears pricked my eyes. Marry me, he continued. Build a family with me, the kind where everyone counts, where love is a choice we make every day, not an obligation that gets weaponized, where we support each other without keeping score, where we mess up sometimes but always choose honesty over comfort. I looked at him. This man who'd started our story with a lie but had chosen truth every single day since, who'd learned alongside me that love wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing each other, especially when things got messy. Yes, I said. We planned a small wedding. 40 guests. Intimate, intentional, only people who genuinely loved and supported us. The venue was an outdoor garden, nothing like the grand Riverside, nothing like Sophia's failed wedding. I sent invitations to my parents. Mom responded, "We'll be there. So proud of you." Dad added a separate text. "You've taught me what real family looks like. Thank you." I sent an invitation to Sophia too, not because I expected her to come, but because offering the olive branch felt important. What she did with it was her choice. She didn't respond. The week before the wedding, an envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a card with 2 words in familiar handwriting. I'm sorry. No signature, no explanation, just those 2 words. I showed it to David. Do you want to call her? He asked carefully. I thought about it, really thought about it. Not yet, I said. Maybe someday. But this week is about celebrating people who show up for me. She hasn't earned that yet. Whatever you decide, I support you, David said. And I knew he meant it. Our wedding day was perfect in the way that actually matters. Not Instagram perfect, but real perfect. The caterer forgot one appetizer. It was slightly too warm. My hair didn't hold the curls as long as planned. But everyone there genuinely wanted to be there. Patricia officiated. Aunt Sarah cried through the entire ceremony. James attended with his new girlfriend, looking genuinely happy for us. Even Mr. Davidson came, and his smile seemed authentic rather than performative. But the moment that broke me was my father's toast. He stood, glass raised, and the crowd quieted. I need to say something, Dad began. A few years ago, I failed my daughter. I let her be treated poorly by people who should have protected her. I stayed silent when I should have spoken up. And I almost lost her because of it. He looked directly at me, his eyes wet. Maya, you taught me that family isn't about biology or obligation. It's about showing up. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard. I'm sorry it took me so long to learn that, But I'm grateful, so grateful that you gave me the chance to be better." He raised his glass higher. "To Maya and David, may your family, whatever form it takes, be built on choice, not obligation, on love, not guilt, on honesty, not manipulation. And may you always remember, walking away from people who hurt you isn't cruelty. It's survival, it's growth, it's choosing yourself so you can truly choose each other." The crowd erupted in applause. I was full-on crying now, and David pulled me close. Aunt Sarah was next. She stood with her characteristic fierce energy. "To Maya," she said simply, voice strong, "who taught us all that walking away isn't giving up, it's growing up. Who showed us that love without boundaries isn't love at all. Who proved that you can survive being told you don't count and come out the other side knowing your exact worth." More applause, more tears. As the reception continued, I found myself on the dance floor with David, swaying to some slow song I didn't recognize but would remember forever. "Happy?" he asked. "Incredibly." My phone buzzed in my clutch. I almost ignored it. This was my wedding, my moment. But something made me check. Unknown number. "I see your wedding photos online. Congratulations. I wish things were different." Sophia. David noticed my expression shift. "Her?" "Yeah. Are you going to respond?" I looked around at the celebration. At Patricia, who'd given me a job when I was rebuilding. At Aunt Sarah, who'd stood by me when my parents faltered. At James, who'd learned from his mistakes. At my father, who'd finally chosen to see me. At my husband, who'd started wrong but chose right every single day. "Maybe someday," I said, tucking my phone away. "But not today. Today is about people who celebrate me, who chose me, who showed up." "That's fair," David said. "Is it?" I looked up at him. "Sometimes I worry I'm too unforgiving." "Maya," he said gently, "forgiveness doesn't mean immediate access. She hurt you badly multiple times. She gets to do the work of proving change. You get to decide if and when you're ready to see that work." I leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of someone who understood that love meant support without enabling, presence without demands. "You know what's funny?" I said. "A year ago, I stood in a hallway at my sister's wedding and realized I didn't count. Today, I'm surrounded by people who remind me I always did. I just needed to learn to count myself first." "And do you?" David asked softly. "Count yourself?" I thought about everything I'd survived. The wedding, the betrayal, the rebuilding, the viral moment and the quiet healing, the learning to say no, the learning to trust again, the learning that love should add to your life rather than drain from it. "Yes," I said. "Finally, completely, yes." As the night wound down and guests began to leave, I stood at the edge of our garden venue and looked at the life I'd built. Not the life my family expected, not the life I'd once thought I was supposed to have, but a life I'd chosen, with people I'd chosen, built on respect and honesty rather than obligation and guilt. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sophia. "I know I don't deserve a response, but I'm in therapy now, really working on myself. I understand if you never want to talk, but I needed you to know. I see it now. What I did, who I was. I'm sorry." I showed the text to David. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I'll think about it," I said honestly. "But not tonight, not for a while. She needs to prove change, not just promise it. Words are easy. Consistent action over time, that's what matters." "That's fair," David repeated. "You keep saying that." "Because it is. You're not being cruel, Maya. You're being honest about what you need. That's healthy." I looked at the message one more time, then put my phone away completely. "Come on," I said, taking David's hand. "Let's go back to our wedding." As we walked back toward the celebration, toward the chosen family who'd gathered to support us, I felt it fully. Peace. Not the absence of problems or pain. I'd never pretended trauma worked that way. But the presence of something stronger. The knowledge that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with exactly who I was supposed to be with. A year ago, I'd been told I didn't count. Today, surrounded by love I didn't have to earn or fight for, I finally understood. I'd always counted. I'd just been counting for the wrong people, seeking value from those who were incapable of giving it. Now I counted for myself, and I'd found people who counted me too, not as a resource or obligation, but as a person worthy of respect, love, and a seat at every table. They say blood is thicker than water, but I'd learned the full quote. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The family you choose, the people who show up when it costs them something, that's what matters. And I'd finally chosen right. The wedding reception ended, but our story was just beginning. As David and I drove away toward our honeymoon, a quiet cabin in the mountains, just us and the peace we'd fought so hard to build, I felt grateful. Not grateful for the pain, not grateful for the betrayal or the manipulation or the years of being used, but grateful for what the pain had taught me, that I was worth more than I'd been accepting, that walking away wasn't giving up, that love without respect isn't love at all, that family is what you make it, not what you're born into. And most importantly, that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. It's the foundation for every healthy relationship you'll ever build. I'd started this journey being told I didn't count. I ended it knowing my exact worth, and that made all the difference.